If you take a young man and he has a dream we could call righteous. We could say that it's a dream that comes from spirit. It comes from an inner guidance because he's in tune with his conscience. And he wants to grow up in a way whereby women and children feel safe around him. Such a dream would come from spirit, right? Now, whatever religion you may believe in, whatever you may identify with, you've likely heard the words of Jesus, which taught us that there are fundamentally two ways in which a human can walk in this world. One of the spirit and one of the flesh. One that is selfish, of selfish indulgence, in pursuit of stimulating the five senses, of identifying with the five senses, the body and the mind, and thus being enslaved by the notion of time. This felt good in the past, so I'm going to pursue it again in the future, and I'm in a never-ending cycle of being taken out of this present moment, right? So there's that one path, the path of the flesh, and then there's the path of the spirit, the path whereby one's intelligence is animated by that inner guidance. All their outward action is guided by compassion, by a sense of connectedness, because they haven't been programmed with a sense of separateness to identify with the flesh. Or maybe they have, but they have again come full circle and snapped out of it. Thankfully, you have all the power. All the power is within you. Simply say no. Simply say no to the cheap dopamine that's afflicting humanity negatively. We live in a time whereby it can put in the hands of a young man something which diverts his attention and thus intelligence into something that is sapping his vitality, his life energy, and it's stimulating him in a way where it feels good. It's releasing this cheap dopamine in the brain. Now, dopamine's not a bad thing, but we want to draw the distinction and understand the difference between cheap dopamine and true dopamine. Serotonin's even better. The cheap dopamine is found in the infinite reel, the short attention span videos on here. It's found in the junk food in your cupboard. It's found in anything that is dragging your attention into the flesh, into what we can give a blanket term, the worldly, into identifying with the body. Whereas if you take that body and instead of indulging in something that's going to give you some cheap and superficial passing satisfaction, and you go to the gym, that's going to give you lasting dopamine, a sustained dopamine, true dopamine. Because your body, your biology is telling you, hey, you're doing a good thing. Keep doing this. I'm going to release this dopamine in the brain. So we can choose that, right? We all have the power of choice. We can choose to use the flesh in a way where we have a lasting sense of contentment and joy. We want to be honest and ask ourselves, are we finding joy in this moment now? Are we seeking and searching for pleasure outside of us? Because if we're seeking, I combine those words, seeking and searching for pleasure, then it's indeed going to be hard to find long-term joy, right? Now, technology is not a bad thing because it's really dependent on the user, how we use it. And we'll what's our intention? Is it in service of self? Is it selfish, in service of the flesh? Or is it in service of others, in service of spirit? Are we enslaved to it? Are we conscious of it? Are we just picking up the phone and scrolling unconsciously? Wow, where did time go? I just spent an hour on Facebook. I'm not picking on anybody. I was there at one point too. But if we simply say no, the power of your will grow stronger every time you say no to a temptation. But first, we got to own it. We got to be aware of it. You got to say, hey, this is not good for me and my happiness, let alone collective humanity. Take a moment to contemplate. Is this going to bring me peace and joy and long-term fulfillment? And how is this affecting the inner being of the fellow humans around me, which are all expressions and manifestations of the one fundamental energy, the life essence